Hello, everyone. Tonight, you will walk alongside a medieval caravan as it faces the most terrifying moment any traveler can experience. The compass needle stops. The familiar world vanishes beneath endless white snow. And 27 souls must choose between standing still to die or walking blindly into the unknown. Before you settle in, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I create here. And if you want to share, tell me where you are in the world and what time it is right now. Now, dim the lights. You stand at the front of the caravan, watching the compass in the caravan master's hands. The needle trembles once, twice, and then stops completely. It points nowhere. It means nothing. And in that single moment, everything changes. The caravan master's name is William. He is 53 years old, with a gray beard that reaches his chest and hands scarred from decades of travel. He has led caravans across the northern territories for 30 years. He has survived blizzards, bandits, and broken wheels. But you have never seen his face look like this: pale, confused, afraid. "The compass is dead," he says quietly. Around you, the caravan stretches in a long line. 6 wagons loaded with trade goods. 27 people, including merchants, their families, guards, servants, and a priest who joined the group in the last town. 12 horses stamp nervously in the snow, sensing the tension that ripples through the humans. You pull your cloak tighter against the wind. The cold bites through every layer you wear, finding gaps in your clothing, crawling across your skin like something alive. You have been traveling for 4 days now, crossing the northern pass from the trading city of Ashford to the winter market in Kingsbridge. A journey William has made more times than he can count. But this winter is different. The snows came 3 weeks early. The storms have been fiercer than anyone remembers. And now the compass, the one tool that kept them on course through the featureless white landscape, has failed. William turns the compass over in his hands. He taps it against his palm. He holds it up to his ear. Nothing. The mechanism inside has frozen solid, killed by the same cold that threatens everyone in the caravan. A merchant named Robert pushes forward through the group. He is a large man with expensive furs wrapped around his shoulders, his face red from cold and growing anger. "What do you mean the compass is dead?" he demands. William does not look at him. His eyes remain fixed on the useless instrument in his hands. "I have made this journey 47 times, William says slowly. "I know every landmark, every river crossing, every hill. But the snow has buried everything, and without the compass, I cannot be certain of our direction." You look around at the landscape. In every direction, the world is the same. White snow stretching to gray horizons. No trees, no rocks, no paths. Nothing to distinguish one direction from another. You could walk for hours and have no idea if you were heading toward Kingsbridge or deeper into the wilderness. Robert's face darkens. "This is unacceptable. I paid good money for safe passage. My goods are worth a fortune. If we lose them in this wasteland..." "If we lose them?" A woman's voice cuts through the argument. You turn to see Margaret, Robert's wife, stepping forward. She is small but fierce, with sharp eyes that miss nothing. Forget your goods, Robert. What about our lives? What about the children? She gestures toward a wagon where 3 young faces peer out from beneath piled blankets. Robert's children, 2 boys and a girl, ages 6, 8, and 11. Their names are Thomas, Edward, and little Catherine. They watch the adults with wide, frightened eyes, understanding that something has gone terribly wrong. The argument dies. Robert looks at his children, and some of the anger drains from his face, replaced by fear. William clears his throat. We have 2 choices. We can make camp here and wait for the weather to clear, or we can pick a direction and hope it leads us to safety. How long can we wait? Asks another voice. This one belongs to Father Bernard, the priest. He is an older man with kind eyes and a gentle manner, but his voice carries authority. How much food do we have? William considers the question. 5 days of food, if we ration carefully. Water we can get from snow, but the horses will not last long in this cold, and neither will the weakest among us. He does not specify who he means by the weakest, but everyone understands. The children, the elderly, anyone who cannot generate enough heat to survive the freezing nights. You step forward, feeling the eyes of the group turn toward you. Is there any way to determine our direction without the compass? William looks at you, considering. There are old methods. The position of the sun, if we could see it. The direction of the wind, if it were consistent. The stars at night, if the clouds would clear. But the sky has been gray for days. The wind shifts constantly. We are blind. The words settle over the group like a weight. Blind, lost, trapped in an endless white void with no way to know which direction leads to safety. A guard named Henry speaks up. He is young, perhaps 25, with the lean build of a soldier and eyes that constantly scan the horizon. We cannot stay here. Standing still in this cold is death. At least if we move, we generate heat. We have a chance. Another guard, older and more cautious, shakes his head. Moving in the wrong direction could take us further from help. We could walk for days and find nothing but more snow. Then what do you suggest? Henry demands. That we sit here and freeze? The argument spreads through the group. Everyone has an opinion. Some want to move, some want to wait, some want to pray. The youngest, Catherine, has fallen asleep despite the cold, her small face peaceful beneath her woolen hood. Margaret strokes her daughter's hair absently, her eyes fixed on the fire. "Are you afraid?" you ask her quietly. She considers the question. "Yes," she admits, "but I cannot show it. The children are watching. If I fall apart, they will too." You nod, understanding. Leadership takes many forms. Sometimes it means making decisions. Sometimes it simply means staying calm when others cannot. The night deepens. People begin to drift toward their tents, seeking what rest they can find. You remain by the fire, watching the flames, thinking about what tomorrow might bring. William joins you, lowering himself onto a log with a grunt of effort. His face looks older in the firelight, the lines deeper, the shadows darker. "You should sleep," he says. "So should you." He shakes his head. "Sleep does not come easy to me anymore. Too many years on the road. Too many nights like this one." You sit in silence for a moment, listening to the wind moan across the snow. "Have you ever been lost before?" you ask. William considers the question. "Once. 20 years ago. I was young and foolish. Thought I could take a shortcut through unfamiliar territory. Ended up wandering for 3 days before I found my way back to the road. How did you survive? Luck, he says simply. Pure luck. I stumbled across a shepherd's hut just as a storm was coming in. Stayed there for 2 days until the weather cleared. If I had been half a mile in any other direction, I would have missed it, and I would have died. The words hang in the cold air. Luck. Survival often comes down to luck. The right turn at the right moment. The chance encounter that changes everything. Do you think we will be lucky, you ask? William stares into the fire for a long moment. I do not know, he says finally, but I know we cannot give up. Not while we still have breath in our bodies and heat in our blood. He rises slowly, his joints cracking in the cold. Get some sleep. Tomorrow will be difficult. You will need your strength. You watch him walk away, his figure disappearing into the darkness beyond the fire. Then you rise and make your way to your tent, crawling beneath the blankets, pulling them tight around your body. Sleep comes slowly, interrupted by the cold that seeps through every layer. You drift in and out of dreams, strange visions of endless white landscapes and compass needles spinning wildly. Several times you wake, shivering, and have to rub your hands together to restore feeling to your fingers. Sometime in the darkest part of the night, you hear voices outside your tent. You push aside the flap and peer out. A small group has gathered near the fire. William is there, and Father Bernard, and a young woman you recognize as Elizabeth, one of the servants. They are all looking up at the sky. You follow their gaze and feel your heart leap. A gap has opened in the clouds. Not large, perhaps the size of a wagon wheel, but enough to reveal a patch of clear black sky. And there, shining with steady white light, are stars. You scramble out of your tent and hurry toward the group. Others are emerging too, drawn by the excitement in the voices. Can you find our direction? William asks Father Bernard. The priest studies the sky with intense concentration. His lips move silently as he searches for familiar patterns. There, he says finally, pointing, the North Star. It sits at the tail of the Little Bear. If we walk toward it, we walk north. William turns in the direction Father Bernard indicates. North, he murmurs. Kingsbridge is north and east of here. If we hold a northerly course, we should intersect the main road eventually. Hope flickers through the group. A direction, an actual direction. After hours of uncertainty, they finally have something to follow. But even as you watch, the gap in the clouds begins to close. The stars fade, one by one, swallowed by the gray curtain. Within minutes, the sky is sealed once more, as blank and featureless as before. Did you see it? William asks. Does everyone remember the direction? People nod, pointing, confirming. The image of those stars is burned into your memory. You could not forget it if you tried. Then we move at first light, William announces. We follow the North Star's direction until we find the road or until we find shelter. There is no more waiting. We walk or we die. No one argues. The decision has been made. The path has been chosen. Whatever happens next, it will happen because they moved forward, not because they stood still. You return to your tent, but do not sleep. The excitement is too great, the anticipation too sharp. You lie awake, watching the fabric above you lighten gradually as dawn approaches, thinking about the journey ahead. When the first gray light appears, the camp comes alive. People move with purpose now, packing quickly, loading wagons, harnessing horses. There is energy in the air that was not there before. Not joy exactly, but something close. direction, purpose, hope. William stands at the front of the caravan, pointing north. Stay together, he commands. Watch out for each other. If anyone falls behind, we stop for them. No one gets left in the snow. The caravan begins to move. Wagons creak, horses snort, boots crunch through snow. You walk near the middle of the group, surrounded by others, feeling the collective warmth of bodies in motion. The first hour passes slowly. The snow is deep, sometimes reaching your thighs, and every step requires effort. Your legs burn, your lungs ache from breathing the frozen air. But you keep moving. Everyone keeps moving. The landscape offers no comfort. The same endless white stretches in every direction. No landmarks, no signs of civilization. Just snow and sky and the constant cold. By midday, the first problems emerge.
Guia de estilo e instruções para síntese de fala. Você é narrador palestrante, forte e autoritário. O tom deve ser firme e inabalável. Margaret tended a George, wrapping extra blankets around him, giving him warm broth from a flask she carries. Her healer's instincts are evident in every gesture, every word of comfort. He needs warmth, she tells William quietly, real warmth, not what we can provide out here. William nods grimly. We are all going to need warmth soon. The question is whether we find it in time. The caravan continues. The afternoon wears on. The light begins to fade, and with it, the temperature drops once more. You feel the cold settling into your bones, a deep, persistent ache that no amount of movement can shake. Then Henry, walking ahead as a scout, calls out, "Tracks!" Everyone hurries forward, gathering around the spot Henry indicates. There, in the snow, are clear marks. Not human footprints, but something more significant. Wagon tracks. Deep grooves cut into the white surface by heavy wheels. William kneels beside them, examining closely. Recent, he says. Made within the last 2 days, maybe less. The edges are still sharp. The snow has not had time to fill them in. Robert pushes forward, his face alight with hope. Another caravan? Heading to Kingsbridge? Possibly, William says carefully, or heading away from it. We cannot know for certain. But if we follow them, Robert begins, if we follow them, we might find the road, or we might find nothing. These tracks could lead anywhere. The group falls silent, considering the options. Follow the tracks and hope they lead to safety, or continue north and hope the road appears. 2 choices, both uncertain, both potentially fatal. Father Bernard speaks up. The tracks head northeast. That aligns with the direction we have been walking. Perhaps God is showing us the way. William looks at the tracks, then at the sky, then back at the tracks. Finally, he nods. We follow them, but we stay alert. If the tracks turn in a direction that does not make sense, we reconsider. The caravan adjusts course, following in line behind the wagon tracks. The going is easier now, the path already broken through the deepest snow. Spirits lift slightly. Following something, anything, feels better than walking blindly. The tracks continue northeast for several miles. The landscape begins to change subtly. The ground rises in gentle slopes. A few snow-covered rocks appear. The world is no longer completely featureless. Then, the tracks disappear. You stand at the edge of a ravine, looking down at a frozen river far below. The wagon tracks lead right to the edge, and then stop. On the far side of the ravine, perhaps 100 feet away, you can see where they resume, continuing northeast.
William approaches the edge carefully, peering down at the ice. They crossed here.
There must have been a bridge or a ford. You look, but see nothing. If there was ever a crossing here, the snow has buried it completely. The ravine walls are steep, almost vertical in places. The frozen river below glints dully in the fading light. Can we climb down? Henry asks. William shakes his head. Not with the wagons, not with the horses. We would have to leave everything behind. Then what do we do? William stands at the edge of the ravine, his face grim. The light is fading fast. In an hour, it will be fully dark, and they are standing at the edge of an impassable obstacle with no clear way forward. We make camp, William decides. We rest for the night. In the morning, we search for another crossing. The camp that night is subdued. People speak in whispers, as if afraid to disturb the heavy silence that has settled over the group. The fire seems smaller, the darkness deeper, the cold more penetrating. You sit with Margaret near the main fire, watching the flames and listening to the wind. Do you think there is another crossing? She asks. There has to be, you say, trying to sound confident. Rivers do not go on forever. Somewhere there is a place we can cross. She nods, but does not look convinced. Her eyes keep drifting toward the wagon where her children sleep, their faces barely visible beneath piles of blankets. I keep thinking about what I would do if something happened to them, she says quietly. If the cold took them, or the hunger, how would I go on? You do not have an answer. Some questions are too large for words. Father Bernard joins you, settling onto a log with a weary sigh. His face looks older tonight, the lines deeper, the shadows darker. I have been praying, he says, for guidance, for strength, for a miracle, perhaps. Have you received any answers? Margaret asks. The priest smiles faintly. God does not always speak in words. Sometimes he speaks through events, through people, through the small choices we make when we think no one is watching. He looks at each of you in turn. I believe we will find a way across that ravine. I do not know how, but I believe it. His faith is comforting, even if you cannot fully share it. You want to believe. You want to trust that something larger than yourselves is watching over this caravan. But the cold is so real, so immediate, that faith feels like a distant luxury. The night passes slowly. Sleep comes in fragments, interrupted by the cold and by dreams that offer no peace. When dawn finally arrives, it brings a gray sky and a sharp wind. William organizes search parties. We split up, he announces. One group follows the ravine upstream, another follows it downstream. We search for a crossing, a place where the walls are less steep, a bridge, anything. You join the upstream group, led by Henry. 6 of you set out, walking along the edge of the ravine, scanning the landscape for any sign of hope. The morning passes without success. The ravine walls remain steep, the frozen river far below, the snow unbroken by any hint of a crossing. Just past midday, you hear a shout from downstream. The other group has found something. You hurry back, your heart pounding with anticipation. When you reach the camp, you find William standing at the edge of the ravine, looking down at something below. There, he says. You follow his gaze and see it. A natural rock bridge spanning the ravine about half a mile downstream. It is narrow, perhaps 10 feet wide, but it appears solid, the rock dark and stable against the white snow. Can the wagons cross? You ask. William studies the bridge carefully. Maybe. It will be tight.
We will have to unload the heaviest goods and carry them across separately, and we will have to guide the horses one at a time. But it is possible? He nods slowly. It is possible. The next few hours are a blur of activity. Wagons are unloaded, their contents carried across the bridge by hand. The crossing is terrifying, the drop dizzying, the wind threatening to push you off balance with every gust. But one by one, the supplies reach the other side. Then come the wagons. William guides the first one himself, walking beside the horse, speaking softly, keeping the animal calm. The wheels scrape against the rock, the wagon creaking and groaning, but it holds. The wagon crosses. The second wagon follows, then the third. Each crossing is a small miracle, a victory against the odds. By the time the sixth wagon reaches the other side, the light is fading once more. But everyone is across. The caravan stands on the far side of the ravine, intact, alive, still moving forward. That night, there is something close to celebration around the fire. People laugh for the first time in days. Someone produces a flask of wine that had been saved for emergencies, and it is passed around, each person taking a small sip. William raises his cup. "To the rock bridge," he says. "May our luck continue to hold." "To the rock bridge," everyone echoes. The next morning, the caravan sets out again, following the wagon tracks that resume on this side of the ravine. The landscape continues to change. More rocks appear. A few stunted trees poke through the snow. The world is becoming less empty, less featureless. And then, around midday, you see it. A road. It emerges from the snow like a ghost, barely visible at first, just a subtle difference in the texture of the ground. But as you approach, it becomes unmistakable. Stones set in patterns, wheel ruts worn into the earth over years of travel. A road, a real road. William stops at the edge, staring at it as if seeing something sacred. "The northern road," he breathes. "We found it." The caravan erupts in joy. People embrace, cry, laugh. The children cheer without fully understanding why. After days of wandering lost in the frozen wilderness, they have found their way back. But William raises his hand for silence. His face remains cautious. "We have found the road," he says, "but we are not safe yet. Kingsbridge is still miles away. The weather could turn at any moment. We must keep moving." The celebration fades, replaced by renewed determination. The caravan falls into line along the road, following it northeast toward the distant market city. The road makes travel easier. The ground is firmer, the path clearer. The horses move faster, sensing the change. People walk with lighter steps, their faces brighter despite the cold. As the afternoon progresses, the landscape continues to change. More trees appear, growing denser with each mile. The snow thins slightly, not melting, but less oppressive. Signs of civilization begin to emerge. A broken signpost, an abandoned cart half buried in a drift, a stone marker indicating distance. Then, as the light begins to fade once more, you see smoke. At first, you think you are imagining it. A thin gray line rising against the gray sky, barely visible. But as you watch, it becomes clearer. Smoke, rising from somewhere ahead. Smoke means fire. Fire means people. People means safety. "Do you see that?" you ask, pointing. William follows your gaze. His eyes widen. Yes, he says, I see it. Word spreads through the caravan. Everyone looks toward the smoke, their faces alight with hope. Even the horses seem to sense the change, their ears pricking forward, their pace quickening. The caravan pushes forward, following the road toward the source of the smoke. The trees grow thicker, forming a forest that blocks the worst of the wind. The temperature seems to rise slightly, or perhaps it is just the anticipation of warmth making the cold feel less bitter. And then, through the trees, you see buildings. A village. Small, perhaps 24 structures, but clearly inhabited. Smoke rises from chimneys, lights glow in windows. The sounds of human activity drift through the cold air. Voices, hammering, the bark of a dog. William stops at the edge of the village, his face a mixture of relief and disbelief. We made it, he says softly. The words seem to break a spell. People begin to cry, to laugh, to embrace. The children cheer and wave. Even the guards, who have maintained their stoic composure throughout the journey, allow themselves to smile. Villagers emerge to greet the caravan, their faces curious and welcoming. They are clearly accustomed to travelers, perhaps a way station along the northern road. They offer food, warmth, shelter. You step into the village and feel the cold begin to recede. Inside the nearest building, a fire blazes in a massive hearth. The warmth wraps around you like a physical embrace, seeping into your frozen bones, driving away the chill that has been your constant companion for days. You sink onto a bench near the fire, extending your hands toward the flames. The heat is almost painful at first, your numb fingers tingling as sensation return.
But you do not pull away. The warmth is too precious, too necessary. Margaret sits beside you, her children clustered around her. Catherine, the youngest, is already asleep, her small face peaceful for the first time in days. Thomas and Edward are eating bread and cheese, their eyes bright with the simple joy of being warm and fed. We did it, Margaret says softly. We actually did it. You nod, too exhausted for words. The evening passes in a blur of warmth and recovery. The villagers provide food, simple but plentiful. Bread, cheese, dried meat, vegetables preserved from the autumn harvest. People eat ravenously, their bodies demanding fuel after days of rationing. William speaks with the village elder, a gray-haired woman named Agnes, gathering information about the road ahead. Kingsbridge is still 2 days' travel, she tells him, but the road is clear and the weather is expected to hold. You are fortunate, Agnes says. We had travelers come through 3 days ago. They said the storms to the south were terrible. Many caravans have been lost. William nods slowly, absorbing the information. We were lost ourselves, he admits. Our compass failed. We wandered for days before finding our way. Agnes looks at him with something like admiration. And yet you are here? You survived. That speaks well of your leadership. William shakes his head. It speaks well of the people in my caravan. They did not give up. They kept moving when stopping would have been easier. That night, you sleep in a real bed for the first time in days. The mattress is thin, the blankets rough, but compared to the frozen ground, it feels like paradise. You drift into sleep almost instantly, your body finally surrendering to the exhaustion it has been fighting. You dream of stars, the North Star, shining steady and true, guiding you through endless fields of white. In the dream, you follow it without fear, knowing exactly where you are going, trusting its ancient light.
When you wake, the sun is already up, weak winter light filtering through the small window of your room. You lie still for a moment, savoring the warmth, the stillness, the absence of constant biting cold. Then you rise and prepare for the final leg of the journey. The caravan sets out mid-morning, refreshed and resupplied. The villagers wave farewell, calling out blessings and good wishes. You look back once, fixing the image of the small settlement in your memory, a beacon of warmth in a frozen world. The road to Kingsbridge is easier than anything you have faced so far. The path is clear, the weather calm, the landscape increasingly populated. Other travelers appear, merchants and pilgrims and farmers, all heading toward the great market city. By afternoon, you can see Kingsbridge in the distance. It rises from the plain like a dream made real. Stone walls and tall towers, smoke rising from countless chimneys, the bustle of activity visible even from miles away.
This is William stops the caravan at a high point in the road, allowing everyone to see the city spread out before them. There it is, he says, our destination, our journey's end. People stare at the city with something like awe. After everything they have been through, after the fear and the cold and the uncertainty, here it is, real, solid, waiting. The final miles pass quickly. The road widens, becoming a proper highway. Other caravans join the flow, merging into a steady stream of traffic heading toward the city gates. Guards check credentials, collect tolls, wave travelers through. And then you are inside. Kingsbridge is everything you imagined and more. The streets are crowded with people, the air filled with the sounds of commerce and conversation. Shops line every road, selling goods from across the known world. The smell of food cooking drifts from taverns and inns, making your stomach growl despite the breakfast you ate. The caravan disperses into the city. Merchants head toward the trading quarters, eager to sell their goods. Families seek lodging. Guards report to their contacts. Father Bernard makes his way toward the great cathedral, its spire visible from every corner of the city. You stand in the central square, surrounded by the chaos of city life, and let the reality sink in. You made it. You survived. William finds you there, his face showing the first real smile you have seen from him. "Thank you," he says simply. For what? For not giving up, for helping the others, for being part of what made this possible. You shake your head. "I did nothing special. I just kept walking." William's smile deepens. That is exactly what made it special. Anyone can walk when the path is clear. You walked when the path had disappeared entirely. He claps you on the shoulder and moves on, disappearing into the crowd, already thinking about his next journey, his next challenge. You remain in the square for a long time, watching the city flow around you. The cold is still there, winter's grip still firm on the world, but it feels different now, manageable, survivable. That evening, you find a quiet inn near the edge of the market district. The common room is warm and crowded. Travelers from a dozen different caravans sharing stories of their journeys. You take a seat near the fire and order a meal, the first hot food you have eaten in what feels like forever. Margaret appears at your table, her children in tow. They look transformed, clean and warm and fed, the fear that had haunted their faces finally gone. "May we join you?" she asks.
You nod, gesturing to the empty seats. The children settle in immediately, fascinated by everything around them, the fire, the other travelers, the food being served. They have already forgotten, Margaret says, watching them. Children are resilient. They bounce back from things that would break an adult. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? She considers the question. Both, I think. Good, because they will not be haunted by nightmares. Bad, because they may not learn from the experience. They may take risks they should not take. That is true for adults, too. Margaret smiles. True. We forget as well, in our own way. The sharp edges of memory fade. We tell ourselves it was not so bad. And then we do it all over again. You look at the fire, thinking about everything that has happened. The frozen compass, the endless snow, the ravine crossing, the village, the road. So much could have gone wrong. So much nearly did go wrong. Would you do it again, you ask? Make this journey, knowing what you know now? Margaret is quiet for a moment. Yes, she says finally, because staying home would have been its own kind of risk. Life is full of dangers, no matter what we choose. At least on the road, I am moving forward. I am doing something, not just waiting for something to happen to me. Her words resonate deeply. You have felt the same thing yourself. The restless need to move, to act, to engage with the world rather than hide from it, even when the world tries to kill you. The evening passes pleasantly. The children eventually fall asleep at the table, their heads resting on their arms. Margaret carries them up to their room, one by one, leaving you alone by the fire. You sit there for a long time, staring into the flames, thinking about the journey that brought you here. The faces of your fellow travelers drift through your mind. William, steady and responsible. Margaret, strong and caring. Father Bernard, faithful and wise. Henry, brave and reckless. All of them struggling together against the cold and the unknown. And the compass. The small brass instrument that failed at the worst possible moment. You wonder where it is now. Did William keep it? Did he throw it away in disgust? Or does it sit somewhere, waiting to be repaired, its story not yet finished? You decide it does not matter. The compass was a tool, nothing more. Useful when it worked, useless when it did not. The real navigation, the real guidance, came from somewhere else. From the stars, from the tracks in the snow, from the decisions made by people who refused to surrender to fear. You rise from your seat and make your way to your room. The bed is soft, the blankets warm, the silence profound. You lie down and close your eyes, feeling sleep approach like an old friend. Tomorrow, you will explore the city. You will walk through the markets, talk to the merchants, listen to the stories of other travelers. You will learn what you can about the world beyond these walls. And eventually, you will set out again. Another journey, another destination. Another chance to test yourself against the unknown. Because that is what travelers do. They move, they seek, they endure. The compass may have died in the ice, but the journey continues. The winter market in Kingsbridge lasts for 2 weeks. You spend the time wandering the stalls, marveling at goods from distant lands, listening to tales of adventures far stranger than your own. You meet traders from the south who speak of warm seas and golden cities. You meet pilgrims from the east who describe mountains so high they touch the clouds. You meet soldiers who have fought in wars you have never heard of, their scars telling stories their words cannot. Each encounter expands your understanding of the world. Each conversation adds a new thread to the tapestry of your experience. You begin to see yourself differently, not as someone who survived a terrible journey, but as someone who is just beginning to understand what journeys really mean. On the 10th day of the market, you encounter William again. He is purchasing supplies for his next caravan, already planning the return journey to Ashford. "Will you come with us?" he asks. "I could use someone reliable." You consider the offer. The thought of returning to the frozen north, of facing the same dangers you barely survived, fills you with a complex mixture of fear and excitement. "Yes," you say finally, "I will come." William nods, as if he expected no other answer. "Good. We leave in 3 days. Be ready." The preparation passes quickly. You gather supplies, repair equipment, study maps that may or may not be accurate. You speak with other travelers who have recently come from the north, gathering information about road conditions and weather patterns. And you think about the compass. William has obtained a new one, a better model, more resistant to cold. He shows it to you the night before departure, turning it in his hands with something like reverence. "This one is made by the finest craftsmen in the city. It has been tested in conditions colder than anything we faced. It should hold." And if it does not? William looks at you, his eyes calm and steady. Then we do what we did before. We find another way. It is a simple answer, but it contains everything you have learned. Compasses fail. Plans go wrong. The world throws obstacles in your path that you never expected and cannot avoid. But you keep moving. You find another way. You survive. The morning of departure arrives cold and clear. The caravan assembles at the north gate of Kingsbridge, a smaller group this time, only 15 people, mostly merchants returning home after successful trading. The wagons are loaded, the horses rested, the spirits high. William gives a brief speech before they set out. "The journey will be difficult," he says. "The weather will be harsh. We may face challenges we cannot predict. But we have done this before. We know what we are capable of, and we will reach Ashford together." The caravan begins to move. Wagons creak, horses snort, boots crunch through the thin layer of snow that covers the road. You walk near the front of the group, your eyes on the horizon, your mind already engaged with the challenges ahead.
Guia de estilo e instruções para síntese de fala. Você é narrador, palestrante, com voz potente, forte e autoritária. O tom deve ser firme e inabalável. O contexto de continuidade era mind already engaged with the challenges ahead. Narrador ou palestrante, mantenha o ritmo e a força vocal sem quebrar a conexão. Haja como se estivesse transmitindo uma verdade fundamental. Então, você está no meio de uma frase ou pensamento. Mantenha o ritmo e a força vocal sem quebrar a conexão. Haja como se estivesse transmitindo uma verdade fundamental. Ashford. The city rises from the winter landscape like a promise kept. Stone walls and wooden gates, smoke rising from chimneys, the sounds of human activity drifting through the cold air. You stop at the crest of a hill and look at it, feeling something shift in your chest. Not just relief, not just triumph, something deeper, more complex. The knowledge that you have done something few people attempt and fewer accomplish. William stands beside you, his face weathered but peaceful.
Home, he says. The caravan descends the hill and approaches the gates. Guards check credentials, collect tolls, wave travelers through. The process is familiar now, routine, almost boring. But beneath the routine, you feel the weight of what it represents. Safety, warmth, the end of one journey and the beginning of whatever comes next. Inside the city, the caravan disperses. Merchants head toward their warehouses, families return to their homes. Guards report to their commanders. You stand in the central square, much as you stood in Kingsbridge weeks ago, letting the reality sink in. You made it. Again. William finds you there, his bag over his shoulder, ready to return to his own life. Until next time, he says, extending his hand. You shake it firmly. Until next time. He walks away, disappearing into the crowd, and you are alone. But you do not feel alone. You feel connected. To the road, to the people you have traveled with, to the stars that guided you when everything else failed. You are part of something larger than yourself, a tradition of travelers stretching back through countless generations. You turn and walk into the city, looking for warmth, for food, for rest. Tomorrow, you will think about what comes next. Another journey, perhaps. Another destination. Another chance to test yourself against the unknown. But tonight, you simply exist. You breathe. You feel the cold air on your face and the solid ground beneath your feet. You are alive, and that is enough. The compass may have died in the ice, but you found your way, and you will find it again. Good night. And if you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to the channel to hear more tales like this one. Your support means everything. Until next time, stay warm, keep moving forward, and never stop looking up at the stars.